Angry old man yells at the clouds about how angry he is at the other angry old man and the people who support him, except he wants their vote come November. We'll go over what's happened there, some of the flubs, some of the mistakes, some of the funny stuff, and, well, the way that people dressed in the crowd. And we're going to be doing a lot of recap on the State of the Union, so strap yourselves in for that. It's going to be a wild time. But on other news, and more Biden news, of course, the transcripts from the documents probe are out today. You can read them for yourself. I should have a link when that pops up where you can go back and read them for yourselves. And people are already, at this moment, trying to spin them to their respective narratives. So we'll go over what's happening with that, what that means, what we do with that, and where we go with that. Mitch McConnell endorses Trump as Ken Buck and Matt Rosendale both decide to leave Congress. And the same week, we'll go over what that means, where we go with that, and what's happening there. And Haiti has descended into chaos again. We'll be talking about what's happening with this and go over a bit of a recap of the number of embassies that have had to be evacuated under the Biden administration. It is going to be all of this and more over here on Contemporary tonight. So strap yourselves in, grab some friends, grab some food. We've got 70 tabs to go through tonight, and we're going to get through all of them. And if not, we'll go back on Thursday. And who is this insatiable creature who has an insatiable love for the dead? I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We have got a lot to go over here tonight. We've got a ton to go over here tonight. 70-some tabs tonight between both windows because, of course, I've got my things I like, things that I hate, and the rules of acquisition in the opposite window from the one we're going to be working from today. And yeah, I was at 58 plus 10 when we started, and then I remember the transcripts dropped today, so I added, I think, 3 more to the main window? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 3 more added to the main window, and that would push us over 70 for the night. So we'll see what we can get through tonight. It's going to be a lot of it is State of the Union. A lot of it's recap off of that, because that was, I think, honestly, as much as the machine is trying to spin it at this point, I think that was the dagger. I think that's what's going to take the Biden admin down. Not only the Lake and Riley thing, but his reaction to it and his nonchalantness with it. I don't see where he recovers from this, honestly. But we will have to see what happens. It's going to be an intense ride, that's for sure. We're going to try to get through it all quickly, but I do tend to ramble and rant and go over. I mean, there was a bunch of stuff tonight that did not make it on, just because I knew we were going to be running low on time. Our friends in the media tried very, very hard to push a lot of stuff in for the day. So, yeah, it's going to be intense. There's going to be a lot to it. I'm going to send a quick DM over here to Fanning, just to let him know that I am live right now, in case he wants, because he's not getting his X alerts, and I don't think a lot of people are getting X alerts from me. Although I did get a little bit of traction boost over the weekend into the week. It looks like I was picked up maybe a little bit more and seen a little bit more, and some of my posts got a little bit more engagement. So, in fact, somebody I haven't seen in my notifications for a very, very long time reposted the episode. So I wonder if she was even getting anything off this year. But we're not here to talk about Elon and the free speech platform that he promised us and didn't deliver. We're here to talk about the news, and there's plenty of that. So strap yourselves in, grab a friend, grab 2 friends, get them over here. And by the way, make sure you guys, I know there's going to be some crossover, but as soon as we're out of here, we'll go check out Break the Cycle. I hope you guys do. Well, we won't, because I don't think Joshua Smith is on Twitch. But friend of the show, Stephen Ignoramus, is on Break the Cycle with Joshua Smith tonight. So we'll be looking for places to go and check that out as well. And I hope that you do. I like Josh. I've met Josh, although I don't remember it, because I think that was about the point in my 24-hour stream that my brain started shutting down. And Elaine pretty much ran that interview for me, so thank you for that when we did the 24-hour suicide prevention stream. But I have apparently met Joshua Smith before at some point, so there's that avenue. But yeah, he is interviewing Stephen Ignoramus right now. That ought to be a great one. And before we get started, make sure you guys go check out Stephen Ignoramus on the Daily Ignoramus. And Overruled with KTZed. KTZed joining me for the live commentary to the State of the Union this past week. Thank you so much again for that, and for everybody who came by and checked that out. That was a big one for us as well, for both of us, and I think she got a boost off her channel. I was on the road most of the day that day. It's been a little bit wild this past week, by the way. You can probably see a little bit of a clutter going on behind me here. My living room is in shambles right now just because I've been going pretty well non-stop since last Wednesday. Well, that's not your problem, that's my problem. Let's get down to the news. Make sure you guys, of course, chat about what it is that you see. The more you chat, the more we get promoted up to the front, except on YouTube, where we will be algorithmically demoted no matter what it is that we do. Let's get the live chat up here so I can see what you guys are doing. 3 lurking over on the Rumble side. The Mogwai shit posting, of course, over on the Twitch side. The Mogwai tells us, I'm here to tell you I wasn't rubbed out by Boeing. I'm also here to say I wasn't the one that helped Graham rub one. Well, you know where this is going. Lindsey Graham, everyone. The Lindsey Graham fan club right there. And Mogwai also says, shit, now I have the Living Dead girl in my head. Rob Zombie is NSFW. We'll be talking about that later on, too, by the way. That's the reason I used that song in the beginning. And once we get up to the Who's Dropping Out of Congress, it'll become clear why I chose that song. Let's get into it. Let's get started, because we've got a lot to go over here today. And we're going to start with the good news. What's the best news we could start with today? What's the very, very best news that we could start with? Are you ready? Nikki Haley has ended. 100%. She's out of the race. Thank God for that. Nikki Haley, I end my campaign with the same words I began it, from the book of Joshua. I direct them to all Americans, but especially to so many of the women and girls out there who put their faith in our campaign. Nobody put their faith in your campaign. Nobody put their faith in your campaign. We'll be talking about that a bit later, too. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for God will be with you wherever you go. I would not be invoking God's name either if I was you. For all the people in the Holy Land that you have killed with your policies, your recommendations, and how many more you intend to kill in the Levantine region, I would not be invoking God's name if I was you. But do what it is that you must. In this campaign, I have seen our country's greatness from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, America. God bless. Let's watch the video.
In Texas and North Carolina, it was all red last night.
Here she is.
Here we go.
The cheering because she's dropping out.
Good morning. Just over a year ago, I launched my campaign for president. When I began, I said the campaign was grounded in my love for our country. Just last week, my mother, a first-generation immigrant, got to vote for her daughter for president. Only in America. I am filled with the gratitude for the outpouring of support we've received from all across our great country. But the time has now come to suspend my campaign.
Woo!
I said I wanted Americans to have their voices heard.
Sorry.
I have done that. I have no regrets. And although I will no longer be a candidate, I will not stop using my voice for the things I believe in.
Yeah, there had to be a
Our
drawback.
national debt will eventually crush our economy. A smaller federal government is not only necessary for our freedom, It is necessary for our survival. The road to socialism is the road to ruin for America. Our Congress is dysfunctional and only getting worse. It is filled with followers, not leaders. Term limits for Washington politicians are needed now more than ever. Our world is on fire because of America's retreat. Standing by our allies in Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan is a moral imperative. But it's also more than that. If we retreat further, there will be more war, not less. As important, while we stand strong for the cause of freedom, we must bind together as Americans. We must turn away from the darkness of hatred and division. I will continue to promote all those values, as is the right of every American. I sought the honor of being your president. But in our great country, being a private citizen is privilege enough in itself. And that's a privilege I very much look forward to enjoying. In all likelihood, Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee when our party convention meets in July. I congratulate him and wish him well. I wish anyone well who would be America's president.
The ice in that statement, holy shit. Somebody else wrote that part into the speech for her, and she probably sacked that person after the fact.
Our country is too precious to let our differences divide us. I have always been a conservative Republican and always supported the Republican nominee. But on this question, as she did on so many others, Margaret Thatcher provided some good advice when she said, quote, "Never just follow the crowd. Always make up your own mind." It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him. And I hope he does that. At its best, politics is about bringing people into your cause, not turning them away. And our conservative cause badly needs more people. This is now his time for choosing. I end my campaign with the same words I began it, from the book of Joshua. I direct them to all Americans, but especially to so many of the women and girls out there who put their faith in our campaign. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for God will be with you wherever you go. In this campaign, I have seen our country's greatness. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, America. God bless you.
You know what's coming. If you watch this program for more than a year, hell, if you watch this program for more than 2 weeks, you know what's coming. I have been waiting 6 months to use that sounder for this very moment. Nikki Haley is gone. She is done. She is out. And the world is a better place for it. Absolutely. The Mogwai says, Kamala Harris presidency? Oh, I was way off. The quest for oil is a holy crusade. Yes, it is. Apparently, she used her mouth to get the Boeing to South Carolina. Why does it sound like a bad Hollywood disaster speech? Well, because it was probably a Hollywood writer that wrote it for her. And that person probably thinks that it's a disaster, that it happened the way that it did. So, she is gone. She is out. Did you notice in that entire speech, her teeth did not move? Like, she gave this entire speech like this. Although she said it a lot more clearly than I can when she gives a speech like that. She gave the entire speech like this. The teeth didn't move apart from each other. She had no idea what she was saying. It was like watching a ventriloquist, except you can see the lips go. Kamala Harris. Yeah, well, they're the same anyway. So, Nikki Haley, she is gone. We'll read one from CNN. Nikki Haley exits Republican presidential race. Briefly from this one. Kylie Atwood, Arit John, and Ebony Davis reporting for CNN. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley announced Wednesday that she is exiting the Republican presidential race and urged Donald Trump to earn the support of voters who backed her. The time has now come to suspend my campaign, and I wanted Americans to have their voices heard. I have done that. I have no regrets. Haley said during remarks in Charleston following a series of losses in GOP nominating contests on Super Tuesday. Yeah, she won Vermont, and I was actually a little bit shocked by that. If you want to know the full truth of it, I thought that was going to be the top story today, and then the angry old man started yelling at the clouds, and I realized that no, this would be shuffled to the bottom if it wasn't such good news. Haley, who was Trump's U.S. ambassador to the UN, which was a mistake, also used the speech to swipe at the former president's isolationist foreign policy, saying, "Our world is on fire because of America's retreat." No, our world is on fire because our commander-in-chief of the military is a seething vegetable who doesn't know where he is 3/4 of the time. She ended her speech with, "Death is a door, but time is but a window. I'll be back." Ghostbusters 2 reference, yes. That was what, it wasn't Viggo Mortensen. Viggo Mortensen was the other character. What was the Carpathian? I can't think of what his name was. But it was the Carpathian that said that. Death is but a door, time is but a window, I'll be back. And Ray read it out of the occult book from his occult shop, by the way. I love that movie. I really like that movie a lot. That's one of the few that I have seen. I thought Viggo Mortensen was the one that took over the artist. And the Carpathian had another name. I don't know. We can do Ghostbusters trivia all night long. And I'm quite good at it, but sometimes I do forget things as well. Haley had vowed to stay in the race through at least Super Tuesday. She had also begun sharpening her attacks on Trump, questioning his mental fitness and lumping him together with Biden, the likely Democrat nominee, as one of two grumpy old men. Which, by the way, and I'm going to make a call out to that one, when you see Yu Jinbong, remind him that he has never seen grumpy old men. I can't say much more about that because of the doxing effect of it, but I do have a close connection with that movie. And that's all that I'm going to say about that. But she is out, she is gone, and the world is a better place for that. Brown children in Syria breathed a sigh of relief on Super Tuesday night when they saw her give that speech. Alright, let's keep going. A lot more to go. So before we talk about the State of the Union, we're going to talk about a little bit of the lead up to this. Something that we talked with KTZed about briefly while she was on with us, but we were trying to get to the speech, even though it took 9 fucking years for Biden to get onto the stage. Raw's alerts, breaking, worker crews are putting up large fencing and have Biden's State of the Union address. Currently, worker crews are putting up large fencing around the Capitol in preparation for tomorrow night's Joe Biden's State of the Union speech. The security measure is being implemented due to reported protests and other potential security concerns. Law enforcement agencies, along with federal, state, and local partners, are closely collaborating to develop a security plan aimed at ensuring the uninterrupted of Joe Biden's State of the Union speech. I don't know where they were planning on going with that, but they got that wrong in the grammar in the bottom. But yes, the fencing is going back up, and a part of this is to keep the leftoids out, oddly enough, the people who are supposed to be on their side. Part of it is for that, but part of it is a display of power as well, just like they did after January the 6th and kept the fencing up they kept that up for almost a year afterwards. It's a display of power. It's a display of, this is ours, this is not yours. You are the little people. You do not belong here. The police of D.C. would have no problem with a little bit of a Palestine protest. And there is nobody on the right that is dumb enough to try to do this again. We all know that it was a Fetty thing, and none of them want to go to prison again. Or for the first time at this matter. In fact, the next story that we're going to talk about actually, I think, might be staged. So let's talk from Fox 5 first about the fencing, and then we will talk about the person who mysteriously attempted to get into the Capitol after the fact. I said that you haven't seen grumpy old men, is what I said about you, bitch. From Fox 5 DC, security fence is in place around the U.S. Capitol ahead of State of the Union. From Fox 5 DC digital team. Workers have installed security fence around the U.S. Capitol in preparation for Biden's Thursday night State of the Union address. In several posts on the social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter. Fox News senior congressional correspondent Chad Bergeron said security officials began erecting the steel graded 12-foot tall fence around the immediate perimeter of the Capitol on Wednesday night. U.S. Capitol Police Xing out. If you're planning to drive around the U.S. Capitol today, please be aware of these road closures planned for tonight's State of the Union address. Linking a website to the road closures. It's the fourth State of the Union where fencing has been in place, all coming in the aftermath of January the 6th. It's the third, by the way, because Biden didn't give the first one that first year, so that is the third State of the Union address. With fencing in place, all coming in the aftermath of the Selfie Fest at the U.S. Capitol. Pergram said the fencing is considered a new normal and a security posture for what he said was described to Fox as a national security event of the highest order. If by some miracle Donald gets reelected next year, bet me that they won't put it back up. Bet me. Bookmark this right now. Goats and Scarves, if you're here, clip it. Because apparently Goats and Scarves knows how to clip on Twitch. Clip it right now. Clip that segment. Save it. Put it in the Discord if you don't believe me. But bet me that if the Donald gives a State of the Union in 2026, the fencing is not going to be there. Although the showman would probably give one on the in 2025 as well. The State of the Union is great. I won. I'm your favorite president. Love me. I promise this time I won't spend you into oblivion. Pergram also added the fence was put up at the orders of the Secret Service, as expected to be removed immediately following the speech. In addition, Pergram wrote that while Fox was told there were no direct threats made ahead of the State of the Union, multiple sources have alluded to concerns about pro-Palestinian demonstrators causing problems during the speech. There it is, it's the leftoids. So that is what we have for that. That is your display of power. But apparently somebody did try to get in the midst of the speech. From KTLA 5, Los Angeles' very own police, Ohio man, arrested after trying to get into the U.S. Capitol with a hammer. Has anybody seen Golden Leaf lately? Anybody? Let's just make sure that he's doing okay. I'm joking, of course. This can't actually be an Ohio man because Ohio doesn't exist. An Ohio man was taken into custody after he allegedly brought a hammer to the U.S. Capitol on Friday. Where's Paul Pelosi? Anybody? Anybody? The U.S. Capitol Police said officers at the Capitol Visitor Center were screening a man around 3:40 p.m. when an officer noticed a hammer inside the man's backpack as it went through the x-ray machine. Hey! Is that a hammer in your backpack, or are you just happy to see me? When the officers tried to do a second screening to look inside the bag, the man became combative and tried to grab the bag, according to a news release. Several officers stepped in to stop the man as the struggle broke out. Officers used their stun guns to stop the man and take him into custody, police said. The hammer seen below was found in the man's bag. Police have identified the man as 33-year-old Christopher Snow of Canton, Ohio. U.S. Capitol Police said Snow was being charged with assault on a police officer, but court records show a misdemeanor charge of unlawful entry to a public property that's been filed against him. I'm willing to bet that the cameras are going to show something completely different. Investigators were still working to find out why he came to the Capitol with a hammer in his bag. Well, we are probably never going to get closure to that story. I wonder if 4chan found anything out about him. The Mogwai, with the Lindsey Graham joke of the night. Graham got excited when he heard a man was here to hammer him. It's hammer time. Alright, angry old man yells at the clouds. From CNN to start. Takeaways from Biden's State of the Union address. Kevin Liptak reporting. So, we all watched the State of the Union address on Thursday with the wonderful KTZed. Thank you again for stopping by, KTZed. It was a wonderful time. We had a great crowd in here, and we had a lot of good conversation going here, but it was a terrible speech. And, I mean, you could see the CIA drugs were going and were trying to work as hard as he could. And he came out swinging, he came out angry, he came out screaming, and by the end of the speech, it was, and God bless America. President Biden, because this is CNN and they have to suck him off, delivered a raucous third State of the Union address, one that could be among the most important speeches he gives during his presidency as he turns towards re-election. His list of objectives was long: tout his accomplishments in office, look ahead to a second-term agenda, allay concerns about his age and fitness, and provide a contrast with Republicans, including rival Donald Trump. All of which he failed at, by the way. The result was a fiery speech that bore little resemblance to a State of the Union past, intent on displaying energy and eager to engage with Republicans. Yeah, that was the meth. That was the methamphetamine. That was not President Biden. Biden delivered starkly political speech that his aides hope can ease the Democratic jitters about his political prospects. But that's the problem. He delivered a stark political speech. He delivered a campaign speech, is what he did. Which I'm not going to stand here and lie to you and say that the Donald didn't do either. He was famous for that. Here are 5 takeaways from Thursday's State of the Union. Biden takes on Trump. Biden may not have uttered his predecessor's name during his remarks, but there was little question Trump was at the center of the State of the Union, making Thursday's speech a particularly politically tinged yearly address. Yeah, it was the whole Voldemort thing. It was reflective of the extraordinary political moment Biden finds himself in, where the political norms of the past decades, ones Biden has openly pined for, have been largely swept aside. The president took multiple swipes at Trump. His prepared remarks referenced my predecessor 13 times. As Biden seized the bully pulpit, one of the advantages to incumbency. But that's the problem. This was supposed to be a speech on the state of our union, not vote for me because I'm not that guy. And instead it turned into vote for me because I'm not that guy. In the very opening of the speech, he referred to my predecessor while lambasting the former president for his statements about encouraging Russia to invade NATO members who don't meet defense spending targets, which was a lie, by the way. Shortly after, he went after election lies, following the 2020 election as the gravest threat to democracy since the Civil War, and by that he means the gravest threat to their hegemony, and it was also a lie. By then, a pattern had emerged on abortion, immigration, taxes, and more. Biden repeatedly made a contrast with Trump, with Democrats in the audience backing him with cheers. And also, by the way, lies, 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 and more lies. Biden delivers an unpredictable, freewheeling speech. That's because the drugs were wearing off. State of the Union speeches are often state affairs with predictable lists of policies and proposals. That was not the case on Thursday when Biden frequently veered off script to ad-lib lines and parlay with Republicans. Yeah, you could always tell because he got this really confused look on his face when he did. The casual joust with Republicans over their plans on taxes, Social Security, and immigration clearly lent the president energy as he was delivering his speech. Biden seemed to have built the moments into a speech after last year's address when his back and forth with Republicans in the crowd emerged as a standout moment. No, they were a failure moment. The moments allowed Biden to show he was willing to engage with Republicans, but also, in his view, take part in some of their arguments. He was interrupted by Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was calling attention to the murder of a nursing student, Laken Riley, by an undocumented immigrant. We'll be talking about that later. Biden responded directly by picking up one of the pins the Georgia Republican had been passing out, reading, "Say her name, Laken Riley," using the term illegal, which isn't how Democrats ordinarily describe immigrants. Biden shows up energetic and forceful amid concerns over his age, but he leaves confused and disoriented. I love how they left that part out. By now, questions over Biden's age and fitness for office have become one of the principal backdrops of the presidential campaign. It's one of the main reasons many Democrats say they would have preferred a different candidate. So it was unavoidable that Biden would face the issue during his State of the Union, whether he wanted to or not. Apart from the substance of his speech and the substance abuse of his speech, how he spoke and how he looked while he was speaking were important factors in how Americans absorbed his message. The president came out fired up and gave an energetic speech for about 20 minutes. That was far cry from some of his more subdued efforts that have concerned supporters. He delivered much of the speech at high volume. Those MAGA Republicans, man! They're the source of all your problems. Biden spent most of last week fine-tuning and meticulously rehearsing his speech, both at the White House and at the presidential retreat, Camp David, that appeared to pay off in his forceful delivery on Thursday night. And again, so did the meth. The president makes a strong case for American leadership abroad. Warmongering. Foreign policy typically takes a back seat during the State of the Union speeches. The intended audience is Congress, and the American people and their concerns are usually within U.S. borders, but for reasons not entirely within his control. Biden is a foreign policy president at a moment of deep global tensions that he caused. The Russia-Ukraine war grinds on, with the future of American assistance in doubt, and Israel's war against Hamas in Gaza, prompted by the terror attacks of October 7th, has generated a humanitarian crisis that's dividing Biden's political coalition. Plus, of course, Niger, Gabon, Syria, Haiti, Myanmar, Pakistan, the Korean Peninsula. You remember those 4 years where you didn't have to worry about any of that? Pepperidge Farm remembers. So it was inevitable that foreign affairs would occupy a larger chunk of Biden's time than in previous addresses. Even if his aides acknowledge it's not a topic that's always at the top of voters' minds, it's also led much of the early portion of his speech. Even before he entered the Capitol, it was evident from protests along his motorcade route and widespread discontent over his handling of the Israel-Hamas war. And lastly, the incumbent president takes a shot at reshaping and resetting the 2024 narrative. If there was one task Biden entered Thursday's speech with, it was reminding American voters, many of whom may have tuned out in the last 3 years, what exactly he's been up to. Polls show many voters are still sour about the direction of the country is headed, despite an economy that's by most measures roaring back from the pinko pox years. That is a fucking lie. Holy shit. Asked in surveys, many Americans have little idea of the accomplishments Biden has been working on that have helped bring the economy back. When is it coming back? Groceries cost a fortune. You can't get housing anywhere unless you make 6 figures in a year. Rent is through the fucking roof. Insurance rates are climbing. Gas is climbing. And people are taking out second and third jobs and lines of credit to buy groceries. Where is the economy back? That's part of the reason why Biden, in his speech, refers to the greatest comeback story never told. Part brushback against what he views as persistently negative media coverage, part acknowledgement that he could do more to explain his agenda to everyday Americans. Hey, look, fat. I'm telling you right now. You better believe that I fixed the economy, man. You smell good, man. Oh, yeah. You better believe that, fat, or we're gonna go behind the woodshed and do push-ups, man. At the same time, Biden's team acknowledges there's a balance to be struck and that Americans with valid concerns about the economy don't necessarily want to be lectured about positive economic indicators they aren't feeling themselves. So, that's their takeaway from all this. What else do we have here? Biden uses feisty State of the Union to contrast with Trump sell voters on a second term. I'm pretty sure he lost voters on that. From Zeke Miller and Sung Min Kim. President Biden delivered a defiant argument for a second term in his State of the Union speech Thursday night, lacing into GOP frontrunner Donald Trump for espousing resentment, revenge, and retribution. 3 key tenets of the Democrat platform. And for jeopardizing freedom at home and abroad. Reveling in the political moment, Biden fired multiple broadsides at my predecessor without ever mentioning Trump by name. That I don't get, by the way. That's like CNN talked about that. They talked about it on X. They talked about it. Ben talked about it. Never mentioned Trump by name. Who the fuck do you think my predecessor is? Like, come on. It's not like that wasn't obvious. Raising his voice repeatedly as he worked to quell voter concerns about his age and job performance while sharpening the contrast with his all but certain November rival. The scrappy... I can't read much of this. I can't sit here and read the AP go, oh yes, Mr. Biden. It's sickening. It's worse than CNN. Was a sharp break from his often humdrum daily appearances and was intended to banish doubts about whether the 81-year-old president, the country's oldest ever, is still up to the job. For 68 minutes in the House chamber, Biden goaded Republicans over their policies on immigration, taxes, and more, invited call and response banter with fellow Democrats, and seemed to relish the fight. I know I may not look like it, but I've been around for a while. And when you get to be my age, certain things become clearer than ever before. What's clear? You have Alzheimer's. Noting he was born during World War II and came of political age during the upheaval of the 60s, Biden declared, and by the way, fought against equal rights in the 60s. But they don't want you to know about that. My lifetime has taught me to embrace freedom and democracy, a future based on the core values, man, that have defined America. Honesty, decency, dignity, equality. To respect everyone, to give everyone a fair shot, man. To hate no safe harbor. Now some other people my age see a different story. An American story of resentment, revenge, and retribution, man. Well, I'm mad at those January 6ers and those goddamn MAGA Republicans. And I'll make sure that they're off the streets away from you. And retribution for voting against me, man. Come on. I can't read this. This is bullshit. And again, this is coming straight off a CNN article, too. This is fucking garbage. Alright, we're not doing the Associated Press off of this one. Let's find some other propaganda. Oh good, the Orange Man weighed in. I was thinking he might have kept his mouth shut over this one. From the Daily Wire, Trump blasts Biden over the State of the Union. Embarrassment. The drugs are wearing off. From Daily Wire News. Former President Trump repeatedly hammered Biden during his State of the Union speech on Thursday night, publishing dozens of posts on social media. Which, by the way, sidetrack on that. They managed to overrun the server capability of Truth Social, because so many people were looking to go and see what it was that he had to say about it. And I'm sure the journos were over there too, looking to be the first one to come out and grab a Truth Social post screenshot and bring it over to X and say, ooh, 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 ooh. He's being a racist. He said something racist. Ooh, ooh, I'm going to be the first one to call him a racist. Oh my God, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. The former president published a video right as Biden started his speech, saying Biden was on the run from his record and lying like crazy to try to escape accountability for the horrific devastation he and his party have created, all the while they continued the very policies that are causing the horror show to go. During Trump's 3-minute pre-rebuttal speech, the former president hit Biden for undoing all his policies on the border, which has led to an unprecedented illegal immigration crisis in the U.S. Likewise, the sight of a feeble Joe Biden talking about shrinkflation, the term he uses, is one of the most ridiculous things the country has ever seen. Shrinkflation is just another way of saying inflation. It means you're losing a lot of money because these people don't know what they're doing. It was all caused by Crooked Joe, Biden, and the people that surround him. And they are radical left, Marxists, and fascists, and communists, and socialists. We have people running our country, the likes of which we have never seen before. Oh, look, we have the video.
Joe Biden is on the run from his record and lying like crazy to try and escape accountability for the horrific devastation he and his party have created. All the while, they continue the very policies that are causing this horror show to go. We cannot take it any longer as a country. Joe Biden's sad excuse for a State of the Union address aside, here are the facts. When I left office, we gave Joe Biden the most secure border in U.S. history. We gave him remain in Mexico, very tough to get, but I got it. Safe third agreements, the asylum ban, Title 42, 571 miles of border wall, rapid deportations, and much more. We had the safest border in the history of our country. As soon as he got in, Crooked Joe and his radical left lunatics deliberately dismantled each and every one of those policies that were so good, that gave us this best border. According to Tom Homan, according to Brandon Judd, the top people, they said it was the single best border we've ever had in recorded history. What's happened now is a horror show. The country, our country, is being laughed at all over the world. Over the past 3 years, Biden has actively aided and abetted the importation of millions and millions of illegal alien migrants and resettled them into your communities. At any time during the past 3 years, Crooked Joe Biden, and he is crooked as you can be and the most incompetent president we've ever had, could have called off the invasion, but to this day, he is keeping the hordes of illegal migrants and illegal aliens pouring into the country. By the time his term is up, we can have close to 20 million people in our country. And we have no idea from where they come. We have no idea who they are. They have no identification. Many come from mental institutions. Many come from prisons. They're terrorists. We have a calamity the likes of which we've never seen before.
And he continues to go on like that too. But one of the key standouts that comes from both the State of the Union and the rebuttal off of this, but also one of the starkest contrasts between the two, is within the context of everything, the Donald continues to ramp on and say, these are the things that Joe Biden has done. This is the bad. This is this. This is that. Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden, Joe Biden. But it's the same thing that Biden did through the State of the Union. The vast majority of what the State of the Union was this is what I accomplished, but this is what my predecessor did. This is what MAGA Republicans want to do. This is where they want to go. This is the policies that they want to do if they get the presidency back. Because he can't run on his record. He can come back and make fluffed up numbers, but people go to the grocery store. Now, Trump can do this from a position where he's not in policy, but one of the big downsides to his presidency is that he did continue to do so throughout his presidency. And if he takes another term, every time he gets up to the pulpit, it's going to be, my predecessor, Joe Biden, we gave him the most secure border, and he messed it up. Because he did that with Obama, too. Even when he was in a position where he could run on his record. And he was in that position a lot. He still came out, the worst president in history, Barack Obama, X, Y, and Z. But for right now, he's in the perfect position to do so because he's trying to get the office back, but also is running from a point where he's not making policy. All right, let's keep going. From Newsweek. An op-ed, Biden did himself no favors, with angry partisan State of the Union. This is an op-ed from Paul Duquesnoy. The opinions expressed in this article are the opinions of Paul Duquesnoy and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Newsweek, Contemporary, or your host, J. Edgar. State of the Union addresses have long been dull pro forma affairs. Loud cheers resound, offering the pretense of unity over division. Policy disagreements are buried under unifying values. The leader soberly rattles off platitudes and achievements and aspirations, often illusory. The Union's state is always strong. The nation's best days invariably lie ahead. Sounds pretty good so far. Too bad it's a bunch of fucking crap. No longer President Biden's third and very possibly last State of the Union descended from the act of staid but dignified statesmanship to what Democrats think they need to shore up his increasingly doubtful re-election bid. In his 67-minute address, reportedly the result of months of intense preparation and meth, Biden was bitter and angry, delivering many of his lines in the loud and cranky tone of a frustrated family patriarch who commands no respect, marshals no enthusiasm, and fears his legacy will spill down a drain of derision. It was not presidential by any stretch. It was hysterical and vulgar, desperate and cheap. Okay, some of the opinions in this article might be the same as me, but you gotta say it. Long gone was the unifier of those few halcyon days in early 2021 when the newly inaugurated Biden peered out from the armed camp that Washington, D.C. had become to promise that he would pursue a moderate course to settle divisions and curb the vitriolic partisanship of former President Trump. Now, Biden is hyper-partisan, blaming Republicans who control neither the presidency nor the Senate nor the Washington bureaucracy for all of his many problems. From Ukraine to the border control to tax policy, he broke firm and laudable precedent to take a swipe at the Supreme Court, the justices of which attended the speech, but by tradition registered no reaction to it, for overturning Roe v. Wade, even though the result has been a pro-choice surge in state abortion referenda and the election of Democrats in several important races. Biden claimed Republicans would cut entitlements to fund a tax cut for the rich, despite the Republican House majority's failure to act on entitlements at any time during his presidency. He countered with his own plan to introduce yet more punitive taxation on wealthy Americans. We heard surprisingly little about Biden's supposed achievements, which his loyalists and those who benefit from his increasingly obvious cognitive decline tout with nauseating regularity, despite all evidence to the contrary, and in the face of massive popular disappointment. Instead, the president lashed out once again, broad brushing half the country as authoritarian fascist enemies of democracy on par with the Nazis, Confederacy, and Russian President Vladimir Putin. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong on this, but yeah, I mean, this was a partisan speech. It was, and I said that right from the beginning. This was a campaign rally. This was meant to rile up and get out the vote on people who were already going to vote for Biden anyway, to keep them from staying home. Alright, what else do we have? Some of the decorum rules that went through this. From WBNS CBS 10. Yes, it is against the House rules to wear campaign attire on the House floor. Kelly Jones reporting. Biden stood in front of a joint session of Congress to deliver the annual State of the Union address in the House of Representatives chamber in the U.S. Capitol. Among those in attendance was Marjorie Taylor Greene, an avid supporter of former president and current presidential candidate Donald Trump. Greene was decked out in a red Trump MAGA hat, a red blazer, and a t-shirt emblazoned with the message, "Say her name." The t-shirt was referring to Laken Riley, a nursing student from Georgia who was killed while she was on a run, allegedly by a Venezuelan man who entered the U.S. illegally. Jamie Raskin posted on X that Greene's outfit with the campaign MAGA slogan was in violation of House rules. Technically, no. Now, if it had said Trump 47 or Trump 24 on it, it would have. But technically, that's not a campaign slogan. Marjorie Taylor Greene is in direct violation of the rules of the House by wearing campaign insignia on the House floor, the Post said. The question, is it against House rules to wear campaign attire on the House floor? The answer, yes. It is against the House rules to wear campaign attire on the House floor. Now again, you're wading into a technicality here because remember that Donald continued to wear his red MAGA hat after his campaign was over from 2016 on into 2020 and beyond. It's not necessarily campaign attire so much as it is a support of a movement that people like Jamie Raskin don't like. I can see you would legitimately have to come back out and make the proof of intent to call that campaign at the end. Now, if it had expressly said Trump 24 on the MAGA hat, then yes, we will call that campaign attire. This is a gray area. I don't agree with it. I thought it was tacky and stupid, and also against the other House rule of wearing headwear on the House floor for a non-religious purpose. But I would call this one a gray area. I would. And that again is not to mention the fact that the entire speech was a campaign speech on top of all this. So, from Newsweek, Biden mocks his confrontation with Marjorie Taylor Greene. From Alice Higham, Biden has mocked his confrontation with MTG after she interrupted his State of the Union address on Thursday, and then she moved to impeach him for it. I got my usual warm reception from Marjorie Taylor Greene, he sarcastically told supporters at a campaign event at Strathaven Middle School in Wallingford, Pennsylvania. Why is he doing a campaign event in middle school? What the fuck is that? During the State of the Union, given to lawmakers of the House, Biden addressed the failure of a bipartisan bill to introduce stricter immigration measures, which is a lie. It was a do mostly nothing bill that gave several $1 billion to Israel and Ukraine. Which was rejected by Republicans. However, he was swiftly interrupted by Greene, who drew attention to the death of Laken Riley, an Augusta University student who was killed by a non-U.S. citizen in February. When Biden said Riley's name, Greene replied the student was killed by an illegal, which the president acknowledged. But how many thousands of people being killed by illegals? Which was a bad form. To her parents, I say my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand, man. And that gets old too, by the way. when you're sitting in a situation trying to console somebody, you don't come back out and say, yeah, my kid died too. Alright, what else do we have? Green rips unfit Biden after president refers to slain nursing student as Lincoln rally at the State of the Union. Yes, there was that. Actually, I'm going to push that one down one. We're going to do this one instead first. Let me drop a couple more of these tabs, make this easier to navigate. What lawmakers wore to the State of the Union speaks volumes from the Associated Press. The main attraction at any State of the Union is the president's speech, but that doesn't mean lawmakers and guests can't send their own message. And they did Thursday night with their fashion choices as Biden addressed Congress. Democrat women wore white for reproductive rights. Well, Democrats have been wearing white since they took their slaves away, so I don't know why this was surprising by any stretch of the imagination. White suits have become a recurring fashion statement for women on the Democratic side of the aisle, honoring the color choice of the suffragists fighting for the passage of the 19th more than a century ago. For tonight's State of the Union address, wearing white and wearing Fight for Reproductive Freedom pins in a social media post from the Democratic Women's Caucus. The sartorial choice comes amid election year rollbacks in women's health care after the Supreme Court's 2022 decision to overturn Roe and its constitutional right to abortion, which didn't exist. Access to abortion and IVF was a key component of Biden's speech. No, it wasn't. That is a lie. I mean, we're back to the Associated Press and their lies anyway, so. Our message is clear. We won't stop fighting until all women can access the health care they need to control their own lives and their futures, the Democratic Women's Caucus said. And, by the way, you saw KTZed get very animated over this for good reason, I thought. Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle wore pins and stickers in honor of the hostages still being held captive in Gaza. Yeah, and what was their name? Tlaib and Ilhan Omar had just little signs that they popped up. Boop, boop, boop. Ceasefire. Ceasefire. Gaza. Palestine. Republicans wear border security politics on their lapels. Many Republicans supported the bright red Stop the Biden Border Crisis buttons. Others wore buttons in support of Lincoln Riley. We read extensively about Marjorie Taylor Greene for that. We've got, of course, support for the Ukraine with blue and yellow. Continuing aid for Ukraine in its efforts to defend itself against Russia's 2-year-old invasion was one of the first appeals made by Biden in a speech. Bill Pascrell Jr. of New Jersey showed his support by wearing a blue and yellow cloth around his shoulders. And a surprise attendee, George Santos, attended the speech despite having been expelled from Congress. He was wearing a Lincoln Riley badge and a shirt with a glittery collar. And nobody seemed to notice until after the fact. But hey, a Republican getting elected from New York City has to be stopped, so they can make up anything that they want about him, who otherwise would have been a complete non-entity. Alright, now back to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Greene rips unfit Biden after president refers to slain nursing student as Lincoln Riley at SO2. There's a little bit of fun with this after the fact. Josh Christensen and Victor Nava reporting. Marjorie Taylor Greene sported a MAGA hat and shirt honoring the slain Georgia nursing student Lincoln Riley. We heard about that. Democrats, led by Stephen Horsford, demanded that Greene remove the hat before Biden entered the chamber, but the Georgia Republican refused. Greene confronted Biden as he made his way to the lectern, handing him one of the pins which he accepted. During his speech, he discussed a bipartisan immigration and border bill that failed to make it out of the Senate earlier this year. Biden held up a pin and invoked Riley's name, but he appeared to mispronounce it. Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many thousands of people are killed by illegals? Biden said. Utter disrespect, she said in an X sent out during the State of the Union. Biden gets Laken Riley's beautiful name wrong. Even when he tries to say it, he can't. Absolutely unfit to be president. And he got ripped up and down for calling him an illegal immigrant, which I know a lot of people wanted them to say undocumented immigrant, but the problem with that is they have his documents. They know who this guy is. They know theoretically, well, they know where he is now because he's in jail, but like, he's not undocumented. They know everything about this dude. Biden mentions Laken Riley in State of the Union, calls man accused of killing her an illegal. Michael Collins for USA Today. Biden mentioned the death of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley during the State of the Union on Thursday and referred to the Venezuelan man accused of killing her as an illegal. Biden's unscripted remarks, prompted by an exchange with Marjorie Taylor Greene, provided one of the night's most tense moments. By calling the suspect an illegal, Biden was using an outdated language often preferred by Republicans, but long abandoned by Democrats who... I think the Beanie Boy, by the way, is right. This is one of the things that he didn't say before me, but I can still see where he comes from off of this. I think the intent is to come back and call them undocumented citizens at some point in the future and use the Republican response as denying them of humanity and denying them of rights, just like they used in the aftermath of the Civil War. The exchange came during a portion of Biden's remarks when he was urging Congress to pass a bipartisan border security bill that House Republicans killed at the urging of former President Trump. Lie. Biden then directed his remarks to the parents, saying, "My heart goes out to you. Having lost children myself, I understand, man." And moving up here to Fox Sports. Pat McAfee thought USC coach Lincoln Riley died because of President Biden's State of the Union address. I guarantee you, by the way, he didn't actually think that. He was just making fun of the situation. Reading from Brian Morick over at Fox News. President Biden was urged to say her name Thursday night during his State of the Union address, a reference to Laken Riley, the Georgia college student allegedly killed by an illegal immigrant. When Biden did mention her, it sounded like he botched Riley's first name and said Lincoln instead. Naturally, Laken Riley trended on X, formerly Twitter, but the social media platform isn't always perfect. X described the trend as a sports topic. Of course, that wasn't correct, but it makes sense. That's AI for you. For those who are not watching the speech, it may have been a surprise to see the coach's name top the trending list on social media out of nowhere, and sometimes it's unfortunately not good news. Pat McAfee, host of the Pat McAfee Show, spotted the trend and thought the worst had happened to the coach. I saw somebody with a microphone last night addressing the entire nation. He made an announcement that Lincoln Riley was dead. McAfee said on a show Friday, "I got on my phone after the event that we're at, and it's Lincoln Riley, and he's trending all over. I click, he's dead. Is Lincoln Riley's dead? Wait a second, who said that? The president? Lincoln Riley's dead? How is this happening?" I saw the name trending, so I'm like, wait, he was just on the show? I was like, what did Lincoln Riley do? That's not what happened. You know what happened, Pat McAfee. I appreciate the fact that you're making fun of this, but you know what happened. Biden was shredded for the apparent mishap, most notably by Laken's mother, Allison Phillips. Biden doesn't even know my child's name. It's pathetic. If you're going to say her name, even when forced to do so, at least say the right name, she wrote on Facebook. And Pat McAfee wasn't the only one. The New York Post fans offer condolences to USC football coach Lincoln Riley after Biden flubbed murdered nursing student's name. Again, I think this was a troll. I don't think that this was legitimate. Because in today's world of politics being all of entertainment, it wouldn't have taken more than a couple clicks to realize what had actually happened with this and how disoriented our current president is. But it's okay, because I like trolling. Let's grab one from the Daily Wire. White House says Biden did not apologize after calling accused Laken Riley murder an illegal. From Leaf LeMahieu, the White House said Monday that Biden did not apologize when he said during an interview on MSNBC that he should not have referred to the suspect in the murder of the college student as an illegal. Principal Deputy Press Secretary Olivia Dalton said there was no apology during Biden's interview with Jonathan Capehart, where he said he regretted using the term illegal to refer to Jose Ibarra. I want to be clear about something. The president absolutely did not apologize. There was no apology anywhere in that conversation, Dalton said en route to the New Hampshire, according to the Daily Mail. Dalton said that Biden was speaking passionately about knowing what it means to lose a child because he has to make everything about him, and extended his deep grief and condolences to Laken Riley's family in front of the entire country. The House chamber, and beyond that, I think it's unconscionable that there are some people who are playing politics with this young woman's tragic murder. So, yeah, he's not going to apologize. By the way, more fireworks on the State of the Union. Again, this is probably going to be a majority of State of the Union show, and we're probably going to have to do some of this on Thursday as well. From ABC 25 WPBF News out of West Palm Beach. Gold Star father and U.S. Rep. Brian Mast, guest to the State of the Union, arrested during address. KTZed, if you're listening to this right now, this is what happened when we saw somebody shouting in the middle of it and we had no idea. From Steve King. Brian Mast, Florida 21, is speaking out about the arrest of his guest at the State of the Union Thursday. Steve Nakui is a Gold Star father whose son was killed during the withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021. Nakui was arrested after yelling about the 2021 withdrawal from Afghanistan and Nakui's late son during President Biden's speech. 51-year-old Nakui was arrested at 10:15 p.m. Thursday. He was first escorted out of the House chamber after yelling, "Remember Abby Gate," and U.S. Marines during Biden's State of the Union. Nakui's son, Marine Corps Lance Corporal Kareem Nakui, was killed at Abbey Gate, the entrance to the Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul, where 13 service members and at least 170 Afghans were killed in 2021. Stephen was Mast's guest at the State of the Union. "I saw the security individual come down and escort him out of his seat, grab him under the arm, and escort him up and out," said Mast. "I was infuriated by it. I don't know how he remained calm." Well, I'm sure that once the cameras were off, he got a severe beatdown. USCP shared the statement with WPBF News. Last night, approximately 10:15, a man disrupted the State of the Union address by yelling. Our officers warned him to stop, and when he did not, the man was removed from the House galleries and was arrested for DC Code Section 22-1307, crowding, obstructing, or incommoding. Disrupting the Congress and demonstrating in the congressional buildings is illegal. I don't understand how that's possible, because every Democrat in the world has demonstrated in the Capitol building. The man has been identified as 51-year-old Stephen K. Nakui. Mast says he visited Nakui in the holding cell until Nakui was released from custody at around 0100 on Friday. To think, this man who lost his son gave more than any person can imagine bearing, and he's carried out of the Capitol in cuffs for yelling, for bearing his soul that remember this moment. Remember my son, remember his name, remember the names of those other individuals, and he's being taken out. It's disgraceful, said Mast. This is America, and the blood that paid for the ability for us all to demonstrate and address the government for grievances and everything else that the First Amendment enshrines in every amendment and every part of our Bill of Rights. His family paid for that in blood. Now, there's some problems that I have with this. Big one, of course, is a big part of the reason that he was arrested for this, because a lot of people get to come up and make all sorts of asses out of themselves during the State of the Union, was because to stop, to interrupt, to make the speech take an extended amount of time, meant that that was all the more time for the methamphetamine to wear off. But there is a certain level of decorum that's to be expected if you are invited into the House chamber during a presidential speech. Yes, should this guy get his day in the sun? Absolutely. Should he get to be on TV? And he's probably going to get to make the circuit and air his grievances. I'm very, very happy for that. But I will go to a limb and say the State of the Union was probably not the time and the place to do so. And I know this is a state level versus a federal level thing, but people were removed in Tennessee from the Democrat Party for doing this exact same thing. I'm a little bit on the fence on this one, and I'm going to be completely honest about that. The separated wife, or divorced wife, I believe on this one, from the New York Post. Gold Star mom blasts ex's complete BS arrest for heckling Biden at State of the Union over Marine son's deaths, calls Prez a failure. Well, she got one part definitely right. From Joshua Rhett Miller. The mother of a Marine killed during the U.S.'s botched withdrawal from Afghanistan on Saturday called BS on the fallen hero's father getting arrested for heckling Biden during his State of the Union address. I was shocked because I thought it was complete BS that they arrested him, Shana Chappelle told the Post. He shouldn't have been arrested. He's a Gold Star father. He's in the same room as the man he knows is responsible for his son's death, so why was he arrested? Chappelle of Lake Elsinore, California, said she's still struggling to survive. Nearly 3 years after her son, Kareem Nakui, was killed by suicide bomber at the military base outside of Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul during the Biden admin's botched withdrawal on August 26, 2021. The mother of five said she learned of ex-Steve Nakui's plan to disrupt Biden's State of the Union by shouting their son's name on Thursday in support of the 51-year-old staged confrontation. I obviously didn't watch the State of the Union because I have a bad taste for Biden, but then all of a sudden I started getting text messages from friends who said Nakui got arrested, Chappelle said. They sent me videos of him yelling out U.S. Marine Kareem Nakui and then getting arrested. Steve, who yelled Abby Gate during the Biden speech referring to the military base where his son was killed, was taken into custody on charges of crowding, obstructing, or incommoding Congress, a misdemeanor typically resulting in a $50 fine. Chappelle said she absolutely blames Biden for Kareem's death, as well as the subsequent suicide of his brother, Dakota Halverson, in 2022. So, and again, there are certain ways that this could have been handled differently. Now, arrested, spending the night in the holding cell, was not the correct way to do so. If it's a $50 fine for him to do that, and again, I will be consistent about that, take him and escort him out, because the penalties are laid right out in this. It's a misdemeanor with a $50 fine. There's no reason to put him in a cell over this, especially when you have all the fencing in the world sitting around the Capitol building to do the State of the Union address. Walk him outside the fencing, and tell him he's not allowed to come back. There was no reason to put him in a cell for that. None. Zero. Hand him his ticket and send him on his way, if you feel that strongly about it. Which clearly he felt that strongly about it. That just turned that into a I'm on the fence about it into a, this is a fucking load of crap. Biden political rival, who has absolutely no political pulse, but is still somehow in the race. Dean Phillips defends Gold Star dad Steve Nakui after heckling Biden at State of the Union. From Haley Shi Singh. Former Democratic presidential candidate Dean Phillips, he's still active, by the way, came to the defense of the father of the Marine who was arrested after Thursday's State of the Union, during which he shouted at President Biden. As a Gold Star son myself, I can only imagine the pain he has felt since losing his son in Afghanistan, Phillips wrote on X, formerly known as Twitter, Friday evening. No one should interrupt a State of the Union, but if Marjorie Taylor Greene wasn't arrested for her outburst, why should he? Which, I mean, that is a good point, too, because Marjorie Taylor Greene was not arrested for this, although one would come back and argue that she is a congressperson, and they're exempt from most of this. But again, still, fair is fair, and if they were to be consistent with their own rules, they'd hand him the ticket and tell him to get the fuck out of here. Maybe rough him up a little bit, but not put him in a cell over it. Alright, let's talk about the response. Full disclosure, I did not watch the response. I have seen clips of the response, but I did not watch the response itself. By the time the speech was getting over, I was exhausted. KTZed was exhausted, and we decided that we couldn't stay up for either one of that. We both had to get up and work in the morning. I've seen clips of this, and this was not done well. Senator Katie Britt attempts to clean up her misleading State of the Union response. If NBC News is coming out saying it was misleading, that tells me mostly it was probably right on the money. And that again is coming from somebody who has not seen the speech. Alexandra Marquez reporting, the Mogwai welcome back. Can we arrest MTG for being an all-around dumbass? I don't think that she's an all-around dumbass. I still think that she's a plant. I maintain this to this day. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a Democrat who was put into Congress to say all the MAGA stuff and make other Republicans look like they're all in for President Trump. And it's the party of hate and racism. I think that's all an act. Wait, are you saying I should watch the speech? Because again, I have not watched the speech. I'm sure I could find it on YouTube. I might do that when I take a shower after stream. Put the speech on my tablet over here and give a listen to it. If you guys think I should do it, I will do it. And we'll probably talk about it on Thursday, because, I mean, let's be realistic. It's 7:30, and look how much stuff we have left. Alright, GOP Senator Katie Britt on Sunday responded to allegations that her response to the State of the Union was misleading. The criticism centers on a story Britt told about a victim of human trafficking, which she implied happened during Biden's tenure. Britt spoke in her Thursday night speech about visiting the U.S.-Mexico border in 2023 and speaking to this woman. She had been sex trafficked by the cartel starting at age 12. She told me not just that she was raped every day, but how many times a day she was raped, Britt said in her response. We shouldn't be okay with this happening in a third world country. This is the United States of America, and it's past time, in my opinion, that we start acting like it. President Biden's border crisis is a disgrace. They told me that she did it in a breathy porn voice. Watch it and then watch the SNL spoof. It was the funniest thing I've seen on SNL in 20 years. Okay, you've piqued my interest. You've piqued my attention. Shortly after the address, the viral social media post by journalist Jonathan Katz looked more closely at the story, noted that the trafficking did not happen during Biden's presidency, or even in the U.S. It happened during the admin of W in Mexico. On Fox News Sunday, Britt did not acknowledge making any mistake or leaving a wrong impression. She was asked whether she meant to give the impression that the story she told about the victim happened during Biden's tenure. No. I was very clear when I spoke to the woman who told me about when she was trafficked, when she was 12. So I didn't say teenager. I didn't say young woman, a grown woman. A woman when she was trafficked when she was 12. She doubled down on her Thursday statement that Biden didn't just create the border crisis, he invited it with 94 executive actions in just the first 100 days. That's true, by the way. I very specifically said that this is what President Biden did during his first 100 days. Minutes after coming into office, he stopped all deportations, halted the construction of the border wall, she said on Sunday. Though Britt did not offer the victim's name in her speech, a spokesperson for her office told the Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness, that she was referring to Carla Jacinto Romero, a trafficking victims' rights advocate who testified before Congress in 2015 about what happened to her as a girl. So, there is that avenue to things. And again, I've not watched the speech, so I can't say a lot about that. What I will say is some of the messaging about that. Now, number one, the breathy voice, and I did hear clips about that. That was a step too far. And I mean, people were comparing that to her trying to audition for a mega porno. And they probably weren't wrong either, by the way. But she also tried to come back and pose herself off as an every person while giving the speech from her own kitchen. Now, there's some problems with that, but also that was way overblown by Democrats who sat and watched Nancy Pelosi eat pints of ice cream that nobody could afford out of a freezer that costs more than some people's houses. And yes, Katie Britt is a senator who does get to vote on laws that affect the way that her stock portfolio goes. And she's also married to an ex-NFL star. Of course she's going to have a big kitchen, especially in Alabama, where the average price of a house is like 50% lower than it is in Minnesota. Luke Wee has joined us. Welcome, Luke Wee. Speaking of Minnesota. But this just did not hit on several occasions. And the last one that we will do here, and there's some video of this, but it's probably not cued.
Joining me now,
It's not cued, so we're not going to go to it. But Katie Britt tore into President Biden during an interview over the weekend for creating the catastrophe on the southern border. Britt made the remarks during Fox News Sunday with Shannon Bream, when Bream asked her about the story she told about a young girl who'd been sex trafficked. Bream pressed Britt to cover the story, or over the story, even though Britt was clever in her remarks when she spoke to a woman who recounted what she experienced as a child, thus making it obvious she was not directly tying the story to Biden. Britt contrasted Biden's first 100 days with her first 100 days, noting that she repeatedly visited the border while Biden did not. The truth is, and the media knows this, yet they're not covering it, that human trafficking has gone up under President Biden. If you look back under 2018, it was a $500 million industry, human trafficking, and drug cartels is now a $13 billion industry. Shannon, the drug cartels are winning under this. This is a story of what's happening right now at an astronomical rate, and we have to bring attention to it. And again, as a person who's not watched the speech yet, but now I'm going to, I will hold any more of my commentary towards Katie Britt until after I've watched the speech. Alright, let's keep going, because I do want to get to some more of this here before we take off for the night. Announcement at this point, yes, there will be a Thursday show this week, 6 p.m. Central Time. So come and join me for that. Surprise, surprise. Biden suddenly leads Donald Trump in multiple polls. We'll go see what the aggregate's doing. Let's grab latest polls. Yeah, that's not the impression that RCP is giving, but we can also go right to the general one as well. But let's read from here first. Kate Plummer. President Biden is beating his Republican rival Donald Trump in multiple polls as the presidential election campaign begins in earnest. A rematch between Trump and Biden has all but been confirmed in the general, after Nikki Haley last week dropped out. Since then, a series of polls have suggested Biden will narrowly beat Trump in November vote. But with 8 months to go and the polls so tight, this could change, and a number of polls have also indicated Trump will win the election. One poll by the Kaiser Family Foundation showed Biden leading Trump 47-44. There were 1,072 registered voters surveyed between February 20th and 28th in this poll. Another poll of 1,350 by Emerson put Biden ahead of the Republican by 2 points, 51-49. Of the 6,334 registered voters surveyed by Morning Consult between March 1st and 5th, 44% would vote for Biden and 43% for Trump. So, and that's all well and good and fine. You've got some individual polls, which you can very easily make say whatever it is that you want, and that's something I pointed out on X over the weekend here. But we've got new polls coming in as well. Georgia, Trump versus Biden, 52-48. Trump versus Biden versus Kennedy versus West versus Stein. Trump 44, Biden 37. But we go down to general, all 50 states, with a Forbes Harris X showing Trump 44. But the important part always is to look at the aggregate, which shows a little bit less than a 2-point lead over Biden after averaging all the polls together. That's a plus 1.7 for the Orange Man. And it has been tracking, by the way, in a very interesting direction as well. We've had bigger gaps, and it is tightening up. I will give the current vegetable in chief that. In the middle of February seemed to be where the gap was the biggest, with a 4.3. But they are staying pretty well within 2 points of each other. Just Biden hasn't really led since, well, October of last year. And he hasn't led consistently since September of last year. And he didn't lead in any polls during the 2020 election. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in November. I don't do Santeria. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you what the future is going to be. I can track on statistics. And that's again why I go with the aggregate versus any single poll, because you can make any single poll say whatever it is that you want. So we run a series of averages as they go, and as more fall off and as more come on. And as much as it scares me to think the fact that the Donald could get a second term and spin us into oblivion again, I know how horrifying the Biden presidency has been. Again, I'm going to point out the fact that I made $16,000 extra last year over the year before, and I feel like I'm in the exact same place and maybe even a little bit further behind, with an extra $16,000 on my yearly salary. I feel like I actually might be slipping behind just a little bit from where I was. All right, let's grab one. from our NPR. This is going on the documents that got released today. Interview transcript shows more nuance on Biden's memory than special counsel report. This comes to us from Tamara Keith, and remember, NPR cannot tell you how evil Donald Trump is and how good socialism is unless you hit that donate button. They need your donation. They're only 10% government funded, and they've had to let go several journalists. So, hit that donate button. Remember, NPR is never printing reality. National Progressive Radio, let's see what it is that they have to say. Luke Wee says, I was down 30K last year due to time off from work. Sorry to hear that, by the way. I am. That's a bunch. That's something that no edhead should have to go through. That's a bunch, dude. During more than 5 hours of interviews over 2 days last October, President Biden cracked jokes, went into great detail about the design of his Wilmington home, and spoke with confidence about the world events from more than a decade ago. At times, he was defiant. He also said some combination of, I don't know, I don't recall, I don't specifically remember, and I have no goddamn idea, in similar phrases more than 100 times during the deposition for a special counsel review of his handling of classified documents after he left office in 2017, according to an NPR review of the transcript. The 258-page transcript of the interview was conducted by special counsel Robert Hur on October 8th and 9th, paints a more nuanced portrait of the president than was described in Hur's report last month. Hur is set to testify before Congress on Tuesday about that investigation, which he did, and will be talking about that. The transcript shows moments where Biden felt around trying to remember the year of certain events, like Trump winning the election in 2016 and the death of his son. Biden recalled the day, but not the year. We'll talk about that a little bit later, too. Hur concluded that criminal charges were not warranted because the evidence did not establish Biden's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. He said Biden would come across to jurors as sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory, had trouble remembering timelines and details, and said it would have been difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him of a serious felony that requires a mental state of willfulness in his retention of some of the classified documents. So, the transcript is out. Did they have a copy of the transcript in here? They do not. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Looks like NPC News is going to have a PDF of it. The polls are closing in Georgia right now, by the way. Even though Trump is running unopposed. Projected winner, Trump already. Alright, so we have... Let me pull this over here where you guys can see it. But we have the transcript here. There is redaction to it. But if you follow the link here, put this up in the chats for everybody. Starting with the Rumble. Yeah, Georgia is on my mind. I didn't know you had an accident. I apologize to hear that just now. But workman's comp didn't really pay well. Yeah, they really don't. Georgia. But this is the link to the article that we have up on the screen, and I will put that in the Discord as well. I'll put that up in general chat so you guys can go and see that. So if you want to read the full transcript, it's right there. It is 159 pages. And then a second report of 99 pages. So a weekend read, perhaps. We will see. But a lot of people tried to take a lot out of this already. Axios even reporting Biden had repeated mental lapses during a special counsel interview and transcript from Alex Thompson. And this is Axios, by the way, which is pretty far into the tank for the left wing of politics. In his 5-hour interview with special counsel Hur, Biden repeatedly mixed up dates, countries, and the entire timeline of significant events, including the years his son Beau died and Trump was elected, according to a transcript of the interview reviewed by Axios. The transcript supports Hur's account that Biden had multiple mental lapses, despite recent pushback from the president and the White House. Over the course of the 2-day interview, which took place in the immediate aftermath of the October 7th Hamas attack, Biden repeatedly asked for help remembering certain important dates, and his lawyers frequently stepped in. When did I announce for president? In 2019. If it was 2013, when did I stop being vice president? In 2009, am I still vice president? Trump gets elected in November of 2017, Biden asked before someone noted it was November of 2016. Twice on the same day, Biden struggled to find the words for fax machine. 80 million votes, folks. You see, there's a printer and there's a, what do they call that? The machine that... He asked until White House counsel Ed Siskel offered up fax machine in both instances. The White House has argued that Hur's report was gratuitous and motivated by partisanship, given that Trump nominated him to be a U.S. attorney. Well, it turns out that that probably isn't the case. But that didn't stop people from jumping in and trying to make it look like whatever they wanted to look like. A.J. Delgado, who is a lawyer via Harvard Law, made with Cuban parts, proud mommy of 4 rescue dogs and 1 human, and not a fan of Trump, says, "Holy shit, we now have the 5-hour transcript. Turns out that Biden couldn't remember when Beau died was a lie. There's a special place in hell for these MAGA people and her." With a very, very closely cropped image from the transcript. What month did Beau die? Oh God, May 30th, Mr. Biden asked the room. A White House lawyer responds, 2015. Was it 2015 that he died? The president asks. An unidentified person in the room replies, it was May of 2015. Mr. Biden agrees, it was 2015, he said. But Madeleine Hubbard comments back, stretching it out a little bit. Did you omit a major section of the transcript here? Biden, well, I don't know. This is what, 2017, 2018, that area? Her, yes, sir. Biden, remember, in this time frame, my son has either been deployed or is dying, and so it was. And by the way, there's still a lot of people at the time when I got out of the Senate that were encouraging me to run in this period. Except the president, I'm not, and not a mean thing to say, he just thought that she had a better shot of winning the presidency than I did. And so I hadn't at this point, even though I'm at Penn, I hadn't walked away from the idea that I may run for office again. But if I ran again, I'd be running for president. And so what's happening though? What month did Beau die? Oh God, May 30th. So yeah, she got caught for it too, and she blocked the replier here, but she got full out caught using this as a full-on political cudgel and lying about it. 80 million votes though, folks. Jamie Raskin. I have not read this, so I don't know what conspiracy theory Jamie Raskin came up with. I found this while I was prepping and organizing today. Jamie Raskin dives into new conspiracy theory during her hearing from Virginia Kruta, but hey, we've got video of this one. Raskin veered into conspiracy theory territory on Tuesday, arguing the investigation into Biden's handling of classified documents was simply a ruse to prevent the U.S. from sending more aid to Ukraine. What? I just legitimately read that for the first time. What? They concocted. They got everybody in together to go talk about documents at a time to prevent sending money to Ukraine. We're not going to make it in November, are we? My brain hurts from that. My brain literally hurts from that. Oh, fuck. Yeah, even Jesse Ventura is going, what the fuck? When I say you're being too tinfoily, I used to listen to a podcast about conspiracy theories called Lizard People. It was more Los Angeles comedians making fun of conspiracy theories, but still, I used to listen to that. And even I'm looking at this and saying, what? When I'm telling you you're being too tinfoily, you gotta turn it back a couple notches. Raskin made the comments during a hearing taking the testimony of Robert Hur, who interviewed President Biden in the course of the investigation into classified documents found in his possession. Let's listen.
It's not... This, my friends, this is a memory test. But it's not a memory test for President Biden. It's a memory test for all of America. Do we remember fascism? Do we remember Nazism? Do you remember communism and totalitarianism? Have we completely forgotten the sacrifices of our parents and grandparents in prior generations? While we play pin the tail on the donkey in this wild goose chase, all of these silly games, Donald Trump entertains authoritarian hustler Viktor Orban at Mar-a-Lago for the weekend, and Orban comes out to declare that if we indeed sleepwalk into another Trump presidency, Trump will, quote, not give a single penny to Ukraine. That's what all of this is about. It's about trying to pull the wool over the eyes of America.
What? Somebody else got that, right? We're not going to make it to November, are we? Okay. All right. If Ignoramus wasn't on Josh Smith tonight, I would keep going for a little bit more. But what you see here, from here on out to the end, we'll get rid of the rest of these up here. This here will be a Thursday show right here, which is still a lot, by the way. But we're going to finish out. We're going to do some things I like and some things that I hate, and I'll leave a couple of those behind as well. So we have something to finish out the show with on Thursday. But we're going to go with the rules of acquisition first. So let's get that tab over here. And let's get into the closing of the show. From Memory Bay to the Ferengi Rules of Acquisition, as noted when we close our show on Tuesday nights and Wednesday night or Thursday nights, if we get to there as well. We go over one of the rules of the acquisition of the highly capitalistic Ferengi species. For those of you not familiar with Star Trek lore, Ferengi were concocted to be a commentary on capitalism from known socialist Gene Roddenberry. However, many of their rules could actually be used in modern parlance and common society. We go through the rules of acquisition, which, if you follow the rules and follow the Ferengi religion, mean that after death, you go to the divine treasury and get to bid on your next life with the social credit you've earned from both making profit in life and following these rules. We go over them. We look at whether or not they can be used in real life, how they may have been used in their original media, and what it is that they mean. So, the last rule that we did was the 280th rule of acquisition. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Very common parlance in our own society as well. We skip to the 284th to follow with canon and say deep down everyone's a Ferengi. This is coming from the DS9 reference book. So, deep down, we all have the same urges to go and make profit, to better ourselves. Some of us are better at it than others, but deep down, we're all capitalists. Even the most socialistic among us are doing so because they want to have personal capital and they can't seem to make it in the modern world and modern parlance. Deep down, everyone's a Ferengi. Everyone knows that profit will get you further ahead in life. Everybody knows how to go back and try to sell some deeds. Some of us, again, are better at it than others, but we all have the drive to make a better lives for ourselves and better lives for our children. Deep down, you're a Ferengi too. But if you look at me taking the 8-axis test, I am a much more Ferengi than most of you, because I got ultra capitalist on my 8-axis test. All right, let's do a couple things I like and a few things that I hate. We'll get through all the things I like tonight, because there are only a couple. And then we'll do just a couple things that I hate. Thing that I like, number one today. My trial is running to an end, and I'm probably not going to continue unless they offer me more trial time, which I hope that they do. Mogwai says, statements like that make the Borg pass us by. Just saying. Now, they can stay over there. A little over a month ago, I tried Factor meals for the first time. I got a 50% off my first box and 20% off the following boxes. And by the way, I am up on the end right now. So I get to choose 6 meals, and I got the first 3 that they have pre-chosen up there, but I will be editing my meals coming up here. If you get a chance to get the discounted version, especially if single or you and your spouse work opposite shifts or anything else like that, I don't typically do an endorsement on this unless they're paying me, but I will endorse at least the free trial for Factor meals, and then you can make the decision on your own personal finance. This is not official financial advice on whether or not it works for you, but it's really good. And to have 50% off that first box, it's really good for, I'm not going to say pretty cheap, but decent amount. So your regular weekly meals are $80.99 if you get a 6-meal pack. And then they put $16 of shipping on them. So you're out of pocket $96.99 per week if you do this. And then it's just easy to go back and put the meal up in. I use the toaster oven because I don't use a microwave. So throw it in the toaster oven for 10 minutes and then you're eating. And one of the things that it did for me was, especially when I was doing contemporary, was it stopped me from eating right before I went to bed. Because I've already eaten my dinner for the night before we went live. Salmon with roasted garlic mashed potatoes and red pepper and broccoli, by the way. It was delicious. But they've got ground pork cheddar mac, chili and mac, which I have one of those in my fridge right now, chicken Alfredo. It's never frozen, so it's not going to be like grabbing a frozen dinner out of the supermarket, which will get you about the same thing, but I think a little bit lower quality of food. The problem, again, is that you're going to wind up spending more on this than if you made the meals at home. And you're not going to have leftovers from this like you would if you made the meals at home. Like I said, for the discount, it's really good. And I like the fact that I took it as a discount. It's pre-portioned, it's ready, it's 650 calories, 570 calories. A McDonald's burger is more than that just in the burger itself. So the food is fantastic. If you get the chance, try it. I can vouch for it. It was really good. I hope that they would pay me at some point or give me some free meals for this, but I don't know that they would want to be associated with a show like this. But yeah, I will 100% vouch for it. If you get the opportunity, try it. Other things that I like, they are pre-cooked. Yeah, you just have to warm them up. And again, it's 10 minutes in the toaster oven. It's like 2 minutes in the microwave, if you use a microwave, which I don't. Other things that I like. I picked up my DS for a little bit while I was traveling earlier on in the week. And had a little bit of downtime between traveling where I couldn't clean up here because I wasn't here. But I grabbed my DS and I started playing probably one of my favorite games. I took a short little break, but I do want to finish off the leaf green version of Pokemon, which I have loaded in my DS Lite because that's got the Game Boy Advance port in it. But I grabbed my 3DS and I started playing Lego Star Wars again, which I've played both Lego Star Wars and the original trilogy for GameCube. I have the complete trilogy for Wii, but I wasn't playing on Wii, I was playing on my DS. And I enjoyed it so much I decided I would share the trailer with you guys for the complete saga for both DS, PS3, Xbox 360, and Nintendo Wii. They make them again now for Switch, and I think they probably do the entire Skywalker saga at this point, so yes, unfortunately you have to get 7, 8, and 9 with the 2. So if you have a chance, get the older copy for the Wii that only goes 1 through 6. Trust me, then you don't have to do the wokey bullshit. But here's the trailer for Lego Star Wars, the complete saga.
They're the Skywalkers. You've met the whole family, but they've never shared the same screen. Until now.
Oops.
Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga. The award-winning game franchise that brought the whole family together is back. For an adventure that lets you play through all 6 episodes for the first time. Mix and match your favorite characters from across the galaxy and build your adventure from episode 1 all the way through to episode 6. The saga that spans generations makes the jump to the next generation. Now your whole family can battle together on next-gen consoles and take the complete saga with you on the Nintendo DS, featuring new levels, new challenges, and new Jedi moves you'll fall head over heels for. Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga. This fall. Fun runs in the family.
And again, great game, great franchise. One of my favorites. It's one of my favorite franchises to begin with. And then they go and take it down a level in seriousness. So you've got the goofy humor of the Lego this and that franchise. So if you got a chance, give it a try. I like it a lot. And again, something I would definitely play again. I might stream it just for the hell of it. Since I have a capture card and I can hook the Wii up to my computer and we can do it that way. Just because I think that would be a lot of fun. Other things that I like. Biden got ripped, rightly, over comments that he made about Netanyahu. What were the comments that he made about one of the most prominent leaders of the only Jewish state in the world? He told them that he was going to sit down with Netanyahu and have a come to Jesus moment. I'm not even kidding. And he got caught in a hot mic doing it too. Like, how do you screw up that badly? President Biden was caught on a hot mic talking to Democrats this week about his remarks that he made to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The 81-year-old made the remarks after his State of the Union while talking to Michael Bennet of Colorado, Mayor Pete, and Anthony Blinken. I told him, Bibi, and don't replace. This is when the drugs started to wear off. You and I are going to have a come to Jesus meeting, Biden said. An aide rushed to tell him he was on a hot mic when he made the remark. I'm on a hot mic, man. Yeah, that was good. That was real good.
Great speeches. I was telling your secretary, I was in Jordan
And it's hard to hear.
this weekend, and just, you got to keep pushing what you're doing on the humanitarian stuff and all this stuff. So,
I told him, baby, I'm gonna do this. I said, baby, you know I can't come to Jesus. Sure, just.
What is that kid, like 19? I don't know why I leaned in either. My headphones are right here. Leaning in isn't going to make me hear it any better. And Netanyahu actually got to dig back in. Netanyahu responds to Biden's hot mic vow to have a come to Jesus meeting with Israeli Prime Minister. From Victor Nava over the New York Post. Netanyahu on Mondays said that he has no clue what Biden was talking about when on a hot mic told the senator he needed to have a come to Jesus meeting with the leader of the Jewish state. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the term, even though Jesus wasn't born far from here. Netanyahu said during an appearance on Fox and Friends when asked about Biden's post-State of the Union exchange with Michael Bennet. During the conversation, Bennett was heard urging the 81-year-old president to keep pushing Netanyahu to address the humanitarian concerns in Gaza, to which Biden responded, I told him, don't repeat this, but we're going to have a come to Jesus meeting. I can't tell you if that means having a heart-to-heart conversation. We've had plenty of times over 40 years that I've known Joe Biden, and over 12 or 13 conversations we've had since the beginning of war, Netanyahu said on Monday. The Israeli Prime Minister acknowledged disagreements between him and the Biden admin on how to achieve the country's goal of eradicating Hamas terrorists in Gaza, but stressed the importance of at least keeping up appearances that the two nations are united. Dude, again, got absolutely fucking ripped for this. And rightly so, he absolutely should have. I don't know how... 80 million votes, folks. Let's move on, and we'll do a couple things that I hate. Let's do this one. I'm going to pick and choose a little bit here. Daily Wire again, a controlled burn of toxic chemicals that unleashed mushroom cloud over East Palestine wasn't necessary, federal official says. But of course it was, because it made the big show that they were doing something. From Leif LeMahieu, a federal official with the NTSB said that the controlled burning of toxic chemicals in East Palestine after a massive train derailment was not justified. NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy told lawmakers on Wednesday that there would have been alternatives to busting open the train cars and burning the vinyl chloride inside the train operated by Norfolk Southern that crashed in February of 2023. The burn released toxic fumes in the area and left residents with concerns about their health and safety. The company, Oxyvinyls, reportedly did not think a deadly explosion could occur, telling contractors with Norfolk Southern that there was no justification to do a vent and burn, according to Homendy. Instead, they could have waited and let the chemicals cool down. Homendy said Mike DeWine and other first responders did not know this was a possibility. So Oxyvinyls was on scene providing the information to Norfolk Southern contractor, who was in the room when the decision was made, and when advice was given to the governor of Ohio, the incident commander. They were not given full information because no one was told Oxyvinyls was on the scene, Halmody said. They were left out of the room. The incident commander didn't even know they existed, and neither did the governor, so they were provided incomplete information to make a decision. I think a lot of this was pushed way too fast. Now, of course, you want to get out there and get these homes open so people can go back to their lives after you've completely destroyed them. That's a given. But we've got people in the environmental movement who are running out saying that this is what needs to happen because it's the only way. And it wasn't the only way. This whole East Palestine thing, it looked like there was a lot of push to go back and cover it up, to make it go away, and to try to move on to the next thing as quickly as possible. And really, realistically, from the beginning, it didn't have to happen. I've long suspected there's been sabotage about this because those wheel bearing readers, wheel bearings don't just go bad. They don't just go bad right now like that. That thing had to have been reading hot after it passed over at least 5 of the wheel bearing readers before the thing came apart in an explosion. There is so much about this that I hate, and there's so much closure that we're never going to get out of it. As mentioned at the top of the show by one the Mogwai from the BBC, Boeing whistleblower found dead in U.S. from Theo Leggett. A former Boeing employee known for raising concerns about the firm's production standards has been found dead in the U.S. John Barnett had worked for Boeing for 32 years until his retirement in 2017, in the days before his death. He had been giving evidence in a whistleblower lawsuit against the company. Boeing said it was saddened to hear of Mr. Barnett's passing. The Charleston County coroner confirmed his death to the BBC on Monday. It said the 62-year-old had died from a self-inflicted wound on March 9th, and police were investigating. Mr. Barnett had worked for the U.S. plane giant for 32 years until his retirement in 2017 on health grounds. From 2010, he worked as a quality manager at the North Charleston plant, making the 787 Dreamliner, a state-of-the-art airliner used mainly in long-haul routes. In 2019, Mr. Barnett told the BBC that under pressure, workers had been deliberately fitting substandard parts to the aircraft on the production line. He also said he uncovered serious problems with oxygen systems, which could mean 1 in 4 breathing masks would not work in an emergency. Don't like those odds, I'm not going to lie. He said soon after starting work in South Carolina, he had become concerned that the push to get new aircraft built meant the assembly process was rushed and safety was compromised, something the company has denied. And then suddenly, mysteriously, out of nowhere, he was found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The obituary, the Patriot Voice, says, "This is John Barnett, the man who was just Epstein because he spilled all the beans about Boeing's very shady quality control in a lawsuit deposition." You know what's scary is that I think every plane that I've ever flown on has been a Boeing. And there have only been 4, so it's not been very many. I did not start flying until I was over 30. Once to Arizona, once back from Arizona, once to New Hampshire, and once back from New Hampshire. He literally was found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound in his truck in the parking lot at a hotel in South Carolina, just days after testifying against Boeing. I'm just going to state the obvious, John did not kill himself. He was silenced because he provided information in a deposition that may have seriously damaged Boeing's credibility, stock prices, and even raised questions of criminality once published. That's the sad truth. Boeing is one of, if not the largest aviation company on Earth. If it comes out they're not building or maintaining with the highest standards, it will be disastrous for them. It'll be disastrous, by the way, for Nikki Haley as well, who was on that board. I know this is likely wishful thinking, but there has to be more thorough and comprehensive protection for whistleblowers. I pray that whoever did this to John will get swift justice. Unfortunately, your prayers will probably go unanswered because John is probably not going to get any justice. And speaking of high regulations, David Hogg, proving that he knows nothing about the aviation process, disclosed.tv Xing out just in, United Boeing 737 MAX suffers gear collapse landing in Houston, Texas. With the insufferable David Hogg saying, turns out letting the market regulate itself doesn't go too well. Now, of course, the problem here is that yes, there are substandard parts in Boeing jets, according to this whistleblower, but that market does not regulate itself. That is a stringent failure of the United States government and the FAA, who has these things under a microscope. Or, let me rephrase that, should have these things under a microscope. And apparently missed that one. Somehow. Weird. Alright, and the last one. Another one that popped up right before I went live. Oh, Benny boy. Oh, Benny boy. Ben Shapiro. Gang, no one in the US should be retiring at 65 years old. Frankly, I think retirement itself is a stupid idea, unless you have some sort of health problem. Take it away, Shapiro.
And let's be real about this. It's insane that we haven't raised the retirement age in the United States. It's totally crazy. Joe Biden, if that were the case, Joe Biden should not be running for president. Hey, Joe Biden is 81 years old. The retirement age in the United States, at which you start to receive Social Security and you are eligible for Medicare, is 65. Joe Biden has technically been eligible for Social Security and Medicare for 16 years, and he wants to continue in office until he is 86, which is 19 years past when he would be eligible for retirement. No one in the United States should be retiring at 65 years old. Frankly, I think retirement itself is a stupid idea unless you have some sort of health problem. Everybody that I know who is elderly, who has retired, is dead within 5 years. And if you talk to people who are elderly and they lose their purpose in life by losing their job and they stop working, things go to hell in a handbasket real quick. But put all of that aside, just on a fiscal level and on a logical level. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt established 65 as the retirement age, the average life expectancy in the United States was 63 years old. Today, the average life expectancy in the United States is close to 80. It's totally insane that you believe that you should be able to work from the time that you are essentially 20 to the time that you are 65, which is a 45-year period, pay in, and then you will receive Social Security benefits sufficient to support you and your family, you and your wife or whatever, for like another 20 years. That's crazy talk. That is not fiscally sustainable. The notion that if you have to raise the retirement age to 67 or 68, that everyone is going to fall apart. My parents are that age. My parents are not retired. And they shouldn't retire. It would be very bad for them to retire. By the way, it's disrespectful to people who are 67, 68, 69 years old to suggest that they are in the same shape as people who are 65 were in 1940. It's not true at all. Have you met a 65-year-old lately? 65-year-olds are not old in the United States. They're not. 68-year-olds are not old in the United States. Again, Joe Biden thinks he's not old, and that dude is running for president again, and that dude actually is old, and he's 81. I fail to see how a country in which our entire leadership class is 80 plus is telling you that we should have a retirement age of 65. It makes no sense at all.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. There's some things that I agree with our small-headed friend on. I look at my parents. I look at my parents versus what my grandparents looked like at that age. And there is a stark and distinct difference. But there's also a stark and distinct difference between what most of us who would retire at 65 would be doing for work versus what this loudmouth asshole is doing for work. If I was still turning a wrench, by the way, yes, I would be eager to be getting off the floor at 65 because I'd be getting to that point where my body was starting to break down. I already got to that point. I had my arm broken. And I can't really give any more details other than that of what happened with it, but I had my arm broken. And when it healed back, I did not have the strength to continue with book time anymore. Luckily, I was able to find another avenue of things that I could do in the same industry, where I didn't have to be as active and constantly on anymore. And I could still fill a sort of advisory role and honestly make more money than I did when I was on the floor anyway, which I don't understand how that's even possible at this point. But factory work, farming, restaurant work, that's a big one. And a host of other things. Yes, you should retire from some of that stuff, because if not, you're sitting here literally killing yourself. Maybe you go back and do something else. My grandma didn't work. My maternal grandmother didn't work until she was past retirement age, because she stayed at home and took care of the kids and to some extent the grandkids as well, when all the kids were up and grown and getting out of the house. My maternal grandmother did not hold down a job until after all 4 of her kids were out of the house. And when my grandfather retired, he went back into the workforce at a reduced capacity because, again, factory worker. When he retired at, Mom, if you're listening to this, 62 was it? I think. When he retired at that, he went and he did various different forms of restaurant work. But he didn't stop working. You don't get paid as well, of course, and you go through that, but it should be your choice. And really, honestly, I know I'm the last person to talk about this because I did so much job jumping in my 20s when the economy was down. And I know a lot of people my age were in that boat. But your retirement is, number one, something you should be funding yourself. Not something you should be depending on the government or what you paid in, which most of us are not going to get anyway, to the Social Security market. That is something you should be preparing for, ready for, and have in your 401k ready to go. And you build your own retirement at this point, not depending on what the government gives you for your retirement. But to hear this person who's never done a hard day's work in his life come back out and say that no, you shouldn't retire, you can go fuck yourself, Ben Shapiro. As I've always said, from the start to the end, to the beginning, number one, I want to die in this chair, streaming, probably bitching about politics, but I might be playing a video game instead. But I want to continue to do this until the end, and I do hope that at some point that I get paid, so, we can keep going off this. Your subscriptions on Twitch, the support that you give over on YouTube, and the support that you give on Rumble does help out, and I pay attention to that, and I love you guys for that. But I also hope that I'm not throwing around 100-pound brake drums when I'm 80 by that point. There's a difference. I will point out the agreement that 65 is not old at this point. My dad is 65 and still acts like he's 40. He can't quite keep up with me where I'm at this point. There have been some other health issues that have complicated that, but he didn't look like my maternal grandfather did at 65. I never knew my paternal grandfather. I was way too young when he passed away, but he did not look like, and he can carry himself better than my mom's dad did at 65 years old. There have been amazing advancements in health and people caring for themselves since then. But still, when you retire should be dependent on your finances and how well you're prepared. Not some arbitrary line the government wrote, and not what a person who's never done a hard day's work in his life tells you. Alright, I'm done about that. Interesting that I'm going to go watch some Stephen Ignoramus after this, after complaining about something that Ben Shapiro said. And if you know Stephen, you know why that's fun and ironic. But let's throw some outro music up and let's head out of here. Speaking of Stephen Ignoramus, let's throw some outro music up there. Where is the outro music? Because I restarted my computer. There it is. Whew. All right. Well, with that, we're done. We're out of here. Thanks everybody who came by and hung out and chatted and saw some faces I haven't seen for a while. No new faces tonight, but if you guys ever want to come back in and chat, I always welcome it because it promotes us up to the front page. If you like what you saw, we will actually be back here on Thursday for a makeup stream because there was way too much to finish up today and we spent most of the stream talking about the State of the Union. So I do hope you will come back and join for that. Otherwise, we have got Final Fantasy tomorrow. We have got Fallout Friday, so a lot of stuff we can do here. Take care, have a fantastic night, and enjoy the rest of your night. Do, even though we can't raid over there from Twitch because I don't know if Josh has a Twitch page, but do check over Break the Cycle with Joshua Smith and Stephen Ignoramus, one of my best friends, one of my favorite people in the world tonight. For that, and thanks again. Take care. Have a wonderful night. We will see you here next time for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. Until then, signing off for Turns of Page Productions. Have a fantastic night. My name is Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.